Elon Musk walked onto a talk show stage, but by the time it ended, it was the host who found himself in the hot seat. The emails seemed like any other, just a simple subject line: invitation to the Bryant Palmer Show. At first glance, Musk barely paid attention to it. He received these all the time, requests from news programs, tech panels, late-night talk shows. Most he ignored. But Bryant Palmer? That was different. Palmer's show was among the biggest on television, blending humor, controversy, and sharp, unfiltered interviews. It had a massive audience. People didn't just tune in for the guests, they watched for Palmer himself. His ability to push boundaries, challenge ideas, and sometimes outright humiliate his interviewees was what made him famous. Musk hesitated. His PR team had already gone through the request. "It's a great opportunity," his assistant had pointed out. "Palmer reaches millions." Exposure wasn't what Musk cared about, but he was intrigued. He knew Palmer's reputation. The way he turned interviews into spectacles, thrived on discomfort, made his guests squirm. But backing down from a challenge? Not his style. "Set it up," Musk finally said. When the day arrived, Musk found himself in a sleek, glass-walled studio in Los Angeles. The green room was quiet, the low hum of distant conversations filling the air. A production assistant handed him a bottle of water before disappearing. He checked his watch. 10 minutes to go. Across the room, a large screen played highlights from Palmer's past interviews. Musk watched political leaders, Hollywood A-listers, CEOs. Some laughed nervously. Some argued. Others sat stone-faced as Palmer toyed with them like a cat with a mouse. Musk smirked slightly. He'd seen this pattern before: bait, provoke, wait for a reaction. The real question was, how far would Palmer push? A stagehand appeared at the door. 5 minutes, Mr. Musk." Musk stood, adjusting the sleeves of his black jacket. Then, with the calm of a man who had faced exploding rockets, failing factories, and financial meltdowns, he walked toward the stage. The studio was packed. Hundreds of people filled the seats, some diehard fans, some skeptics, and a few just there for the drama. The set was modern. A circular stage, bright LED panels, a large desk with 2 chairs. One for Palmer, one for Musk. Palmer was already there, flipping through a stack of cue cards. As Musk approached, the host looked up, flashing his signature grin. Wide, practiced. "Elon." Palmer stood, extending a hand. "Glad you could make it." Musk shook his hand firmly. "Likewise." They took their seats. The audience hushed. The theme music played, cameras rolled, and the stage lights dimmed, leaving only the 2 men in sharp focus. Palmer turned to the camera, smirking. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest tonight. The man behind Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and a dozen other companies I probably can't pronounce. The one, the only, Elon Musk." The audience clapped, some cheering, others murmuring. Palmer leaned forward, elbows resting on the desk. "So, Elon," he began, his voice smooth, "let's get right into it. Some call you a genius, a visionary. Others think you're a complete lunatic." He chuckled, waiting for a reaction. "Which one is it?" Musk smiled faintly. "I think history will decide." Palmer tilted his head. "Fair enough. But let's talk about something a little more interesting than history, shall we?" There was something in his tone, playful, but sharp. The audience sensed it. This wasn't going to be a friendly chat. Musk had expected as much. Palmer leaned back, twirling a pen between his fingers. "Elon, you've built rockets, electric cars, and even implanted chips in monkey brains," he said with a smirk. "Some would say you're playing God. What do you say to that?" Musk chuckled. "I'd say if I were playing God, I'd at least make sure my rockets didn't explode." The audience laughed. But Palmer wasn't done. "Right, but let's be real," he pressed. "You've got more money than entire countries, and people worship you like some kind of prophet. Do you ever wake up and think, maybe I should slow down before I turn into the next Bond villain?" More laughter, but there was something else in Palmer's delivery. Something just a little too pointed. He wasn't really joking. Musk nodded slowly. "If I were a Bond villain, I'd at least have a secret lair by now. But unfortunately, I still live in a $50,000 house in Texas. That got a few laughs. But Palmer wasn't letting go. Flipping through his cue cards, he pretended to search for something. Yes. He tapped one. Speaking of that house, didn't you just fire most of the janitorial staff at X? Musk's expression remained neutral. We had to make some adjustments, yes. Palmer raised an eyebrow. Adjustments? His grin sharpened. That's an interesting way to say, left people jobless right before the holidays. The audience murmured. The energy in the room had shifted. Musk was used to tough questions, but this wasn't probing. It was provoking. I assume you're talking about the San Francisco office? Musk asked, his tone even. That's the one, Palmer said, leaning forward. Reports say people were crying, Elon.
Crying.
You've got billions in the bank. Was that really necessary? Musk exhaled quietly. I think you know that running a company isn't about keeping everyone happy. It's about keeping it alive. X was losing $4 million a day. Palmer shrugged. Must be tough, being a billionaire and making all those sacrifices. A few nervous laughs from the audience. Some clapped. Others stayed quiet. Musk didn't flinch. It's tough making a company work. There's a difference. Palmer sensed an opening. He turned to the audience. You hear that, folks? Tough being the guy who owns private jets and sends cars to space. A few chuckles. A few murmurs. Musk let the moment sit. Then he leaned forward slightly. Do you want to have a real conversation, Bryant? Or are you just here to perform? The air in the room tightened. The audience went dead silent. Even Palmer blinked, just for a second. But he recovered quickly, smirking. Oh, I love a good conversation, Elon. But I also love the truth. And the truth is, people say you're erratic, that you make reckless decisions. Twitter, sorry, X, has become a chaotic mess under your leadership. Musk raised an eyebrow.
Funny.
It was losing billions before I took over. Now it's making a profit. Doesn't sound like chaos to me. Palmer smirked.
Right.
But let's talk about something people really care about, Tesla. Self-driving cars. Crashes. Lawsuits. People losing their lives. And yet, you keep pushing it like it's the future. Do you ever feel responsible? Musk's fingers tapped lightly against the desk. You know, Bryant, we could talk about any car company and find accidents. But nobody asks Ford CEO if he feels responsible when someone crashes a Mustang. Palmer chuckled. Fair, fair. But Ford's not promising full self-driving. Musk smiled. Not yet. And neither are we. The tension in the room was just getting started.